civilian perspective and also beyond that, the child's perspective?
I think, again, in 2003, I went to Iraq. I was the war artist in Basra and Baghdad with British troops. And it was really, again, in this part of the world, to be in a war zone is pretty, unusual. So there was I in theatre, they say, the very romantic word for being in a war zone, and being surrounded by British troops from all different parts of the UK, all different regional accents, and it was the first time I ever felt a sense of nationalism, a sense of sort of camaraderie in that way. And I thought, my goodness, the only reason I'm feeling this is because of war. So it was the perversity of that being in an environment where I felt this my first feeling of camaraderie as being British, but at war. And I thought to myself, that was the seed, in fact, in a way, why I wanted to sort of look at civilians and war. And I thought 1940 Britain, what was happening in my city, London. And then, of course, I found this photograph, doing research for small act of this small black child on a railway station, in a large coat, oversized, briefcase, ready to be evacuated. And I thought, who is that guy? Who is that child? And I want to see the look of his eyes. I mean, again, at what point do we sort of turn the blind eye? At what point do we compromise? At what point do we look away? At what point do we pretend not to hear? And I wanted to bring it back to someone who has a future. I'm trying to clear the path for my children and other people's children. That's my job. That's all our job. That's all our, that's what we're here to do, obviously, to make it better for the people coming behind us. And when I saw this photograph, I just thought, I want almost like a blank piece of paper. I want to start from that child's perspective and also to refocus, because when you have children, it's really strange that when a child picks up a leaf in a garden and says, "Daddy or Mommy, there's a leaf." And you that's a leaf. That's a leaf. You refocus your gaze, and that's what I wanted to do with George. And I found Elliot, thank Jesus, I found Elliot, God, where are all praises to that power and spirit. I found this gentleman.
Section between actual physical support, because they were working, and the emotional support.
Yeah, I mean, for them to have, as you say, been the sort of core power within their home. Taking Rita, for example, someone who has a child to take care of, a family to look after, a single father to provide for, and also to step into the role of men when they left, was just, I'm sure, incredibly trying for these young women who were like in their 20s, and so much was being expected of them. But the change that happened culturally, that shift, was so kind of seismic. And I think for myself and the other actors like Hayley Squires and Erin and Sally, for all of us to know what was going to happen, but to sort of keep it in the present, was an incredibly sort of exciting part of the story to bring to life, because we knew how pivotal this moment was in history for us,
Benjamin, your
I think that this film, the script, this human called Saoirse McQueen, did a great job in letting us see war through the perspective of a child. Now, Elliot, George, through the course of us doing our thing, I saw my own child, my own son, and I wondered if I were in a situation where I had to, in a situation like a war situation like living now, where I had to defend and protect my child, what I would have done. this experience with George was, in fact, a very personal experience that gives me, I suppose, an idea of how I would be if something happens and I have to defend not myself but my children.
On that, actually, even though I had a number of scenes without Elliot, I will say that, of course, it was always incredibly important to the three of us that we were achieving truth at all times. But there was an awareness that I had as an actor playing his mother that I needed to have a certain amount of strength and togetherness, just even in my performance or as an actor. That was very much coming from the role that I needed to play in this little boy's life, that Rita needed to play in this little boy's life, that she was all he had. So I actually do feel that it's not that anything was altered in terms of how the story was told, but for me, playing his mother, there was definitely an awareness of what I needed to be for him when I was in the scenes with him, for sure.
I've been very blessed to work with young actors, I'm going to call them. They're not kids, you know what I mean? There's a certain kind of something. I was very lucky to work with little Thomas in This Is England, and Elliot had that same beautiful quality. There's just a little click, isn't there, where you go, ooh,
Yeah.
okay, you look in his eyes and you do something and you see him kind of fall into that role. I suppose there's no ego, there's no bravado. He's a wonderful young lad. He really is. He's a credit to his parents, but he's also a credit to himself. He's wonderful. He's very enthusiastic. It's a hard slog what the boy's doing. It's a proper bit of work. Do you know what I mean? He's first in. He's last out. He's all through the day. And I know children have to have breaks and stuff, and that's part of the key. But he's just, when he's on, and he's there, and he's 151%, and he's so willing to learn. Do you know what I mean? When you work with someone like him, you learn a lot yourself. Do you know what I mean? See how he carries himself on set, and I think he's brilliant. He's a wonderful young man, and his performance is exceptional. It is an exception. Can we just have a clap for him? You can't get away with it because he look at you as if to say, I didn't believe that one. You're like, oh, okay. And then Steve will go, right, get him this time. You're like, oh, let's go. In a nice way.
Do you not find as well, whenever I work with young people, I think it's very easy, no matter how lucky I'm sure we all feel that we do this, to get a bit jaded sometimes, and you can get a bit like, right, okay, yeah, no, go back into the hair and makeup truck and we're going to do our thing, and it's such a well-oiled machine most of the time. But when someone young comes in and it's their first job especially, they remind you of why you did this in the first place. They remind you of all the love that you have for it and why it's such an incredible job to have.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel really grateful working with young people too, because it re-sparks something in you,
That excitement and that awe and what it is.
It stops you complaining.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm just about to finish up, but before